Hello YouTube, back with the next Battlebots review, and today we're reviewing episode 3, which involves a little bit more controversial in terms of at least the first fight, which involves Rush Drop, which is a walker, versus Subject to Change Without Reason. This would prove controversial only because of the ending. And I guess arguably because of the, how the fight turned around when the first bot was dominating. This would prove to be a theme throughout the rest of the show's run on Comedy Central. But you have Subject to Change Without Reason, which is just a basic wedge. It actually had plans, I think, for an axe or some other weapon, but I guess I think they had to do with weight. They couldn't fit it in there. Not so sure how well an axe would have fit in there. They would have probably had to split the wedge open and embed it inside the chest, inside the armor there. I don't think it would have done very well. The wedge, I think, proved to be a little bit better anyway. Though, I guess with the cheap shot at the end with the pressure drop, because Subject to Change Without Reason had died, it actually apparently cooked his speed controller, which is critical to movement around the arena. That seems to be a pretty common way to lose here. And you only find that out in the raw footage. You will not find that in the actual televised version. You just hear the part where he says, "I'm dead." That's it. But, it ends up being, I guess, a relatively lackluster fight until that point, because Subject to Change Without Reason was dominating as best it could, because, let's face it, Pressure Drop is rather slow, its weapons long-reaching, not very effective, and, of course, Subject to Change Without Reason is also very low to the ground, very flat design. It's not really low to the ground, per se, but it's definitely short in height compared to Pressure Drop. Pressure Drop is like 4 times the height of Subject to Change Without Reason, and then ends up the buzzer sounds, and Pressure Drop continues walking and nails the top of Subject to Change Without Reason, leaving a pretty sizable dent. Nothing more, but it's too much for Randy Eubanks, the builder of Subject to Change Without Reason, to take, and he, well, blows a stack. He actually, and of course, understandably so, because, his robot was unfairly hit after the buzzer. He had already died, and Pressure Drop wanted the cheap shot, and Derek Young wanted that cheap shot after the buzzer. This is why, when the later version of the show, when ABC picks up the show, they end up basically bring up controversies, a little bit of, he's a little bit risky in terms of what he does. Yeah, that's because of this fight, at least partially. It ends up, I guess it's, because it ends up being, beyond that, it's not really that great of a fight. But the controversy kind of livens things up a little bit. And, you can understand Randy Eubanks. It was not fair, and I don't think the reason behind it, I don't think the ref would have told them to keep hitting him. The buzzer's the end of the match, period, end of story. There's no, oh, let me hit him once. He ends up actually making 2 attempts, the first one actually missing, as far as I'm aware. But then we go on to Mouser versus Shaft, which wasn't a whole lot better. There's no controversy. Of course, you kind of know the way it's going to go. Shaft is just a little flat, sort of like flat race car looking robot, if you will. There's no wedge design. Just has little thing at the front, little sort of plow at the front, but not really. It's more like a set of ramming spikes. And you get down to it, I think only arguably, it's got this little bracket-shaped front piece that kind of swivels back and forth. It's got really, it's little more than a ram bot. And of course, Mouser's a sloped bowl, if you will. It's been turned over, sort of like Ziggo, but without the teeth on it. And it's got the lifting arm that goes out to the side like this, and the 2 saw blades, and it kind of dominated the fight. But then you kind of really wouldn't expect anything less, considering the fact that Shaft couldn't really do anything. He didn't really. I don't think he got more than maybe 1 or 2 points into it. But it was pretty dominant by Mouser, mostly because Mouser didn't have to really do a whole lot in that fight. Shaft was just kind of all over the place. Maybe scoring a hit or 2, but I think for the most part, it's much like its later fight with Blood Moon in Season 3. Not really getting any hits. Missing golden opportunities there, but wasn't really that exciting. Vlad versus Tazbot, that proves to be at least a little bit better. Especially considering the fact that for the first part of the fight, Vlad was actually losing that fight. Tazbot was actually getting underneath him. Vlad was kind of missing his shots and all that. And then towards the end of the fight, Vlad kind of got the better handle on it, flipping Tazbot over and then righting it. And after that, this is where Tazbot's wires apparently fried. So they basically as I understand it, the mechanism kind of just fried at the end of that. The wires melted together, so like the wires leading to the battery, they fried, so that was the end of that. So Tazbot was not going anywhere. He was not only not moving, but he was also smoking. So I think that was a critical turning point. And of course, Vlad ends up wrecking the arena a bit as well. I mean, one of the spikes actually, I think, came off in one of those hits. Physically broke off on the arena floor. I didn't even notice that. It was the Battlebots update that kind of pointed that out. But it proves to be at least the more interesting of the two fights. Get a little bit of, a dead bot. You kind of wonder what happened. Vlad's obviously a very fast robot. Once it got into it, it actually made the fight more interesting, and probably the most exciting fight of the episode. I mean, unless you count controversy being a little bit higher up on your list than mine, but it proves to be I mean it would be one of two rivalries between it would be multiple rivalries between from the show. I mean, because it would be Vlad would face Tazbot again in season 2, and not again later on. I mean, Biohazard would have his own rivalry with Voltronic in a later episode. I'll point that out when we get to that point. And also Vlad versus Biohazard, I think arguably would be a bit of a rivalry, even though they never face each other again after that. Their paths do not cross, mostly because of Vlad, really. Vlad loses early in the tournament, season 3.0. But it's a bit better, I guess, arguably better than last week's episode with pretty lackluster fights. I mean, even episode 1, but then we're still early on in the season. We still have 11 more to go, really. Although the 14th is more just geared toward the Rumbles when we get to that point. So not a bad episode. Probably if you can make it the first couple, this will be a little bit better, I think. Maybe not the spectacular moments you've come to get used to with the not only later seasons, but also the reboot of the show. The reboot of the show, I think, just blows this one out of the water completely. Arguably, even Robotica probably has more exciting moments than the first couple of episodes of BattleBots, just because they have a little more contact, they have a little bit more going on with the commentary. Unless you count the events like the Speedway and all that. Speedway is probably the dullest part of the event. Other than that, I would say. But even then, there's a little bit of contact. You're allowed to make contact with your opponent. So even then, yeah, that's my review on BattleBots Season 1.0, Episode 3. Thanks for watching.